Have you ever noticed that nowadays, whenever you mention the term black liberation, that many black people immediately respond by saying, man, I don't want to hear that black liberating crap because we're our worst enemies. That response is actually a programmed response. Presently, there are millions of black people that are now thinking, behaving, and responding the way they were programmed to do so. And they don't even know that their thoughts, behaviors, and responses are the results of their programming. And these black people, they fight against those of us who try to free their minds from the programming. This is not some silly conspiracy theory. It's the absolute truth. The truth that is kept from the black masses through the white society's monopoly over information. This programming is all possible because people's behaviors aligns with what they've been taught to believe. Therefore, an oppressed population can be misled to believe false things that are deliberately designed to make them think, behave, and essentially function in ways that serves and protects the interests of their oppressors. To our own detriment, this is the hidden reality of what the white dominant society has done to the black population. Most black people are currently not functioning based upon an accurate interpretation of the true history shared between our racial group and the white society. Most are instead functioning based upon false narratives that have been indoctrinated into our minds through the white society's monopoly over information, which allows them to control what we believe. They feed us false information that keeps us functioning in ways that serves and protects the interests of their white society. We are not functioning based upon what's true. Case, point, and proof. If we were functioning based upon a true and accurate interpretation of the history shared between us and the white society, we would never call ourselves by the N-word. We would never revere the white society, nor would we ever perceive ourselves as being our worst enemies. The fact that we're now doing these things proves that we're not functioning based upon what's true, but we are instead functioning based upon lies that serves the system of white supremacy. The white society has exploited its monopoly over information that we receive, which allows them to control what we believe. Case, point, and proof. Millions of African Americans are now insisting that most of our enslaved ancestors were sold away. But critically think and ask yourself this question. Given that Africans originally owned all of the gold, diamond, minerals, and natural resources, and Western money had no value whatsoever in Africa, how then is it possible that most of our enslaved ancestors were fairly purchased? And ask yourself further, why wouldn't the greedy white invaders maximize their profits by using their weaponry advantages of rifles, cannons to steal most of the enslaved Africans? To believe that the greedy white enslavers went into Africa with the weaponry advantages of rifles and cannons, but rather than maximizing their profits, they instead found some miraculous way to purchase most of the enslaved Africans is absolutely ridiculous. Because such a claim totally contradicts over 400 years of demonstrated evidence of the behavior of whites in regards to their treatment of black people when it comes to making profit. To believe that most of our enslaved ancestors were sold off is to not function based upon reality. The reason why millions of us believe that lie, that we were sold off, is because white historians whitewashed the history of the African slave trade to favor the white society. Their revision intentionally makes the white enslavers appear more humane and shifts the blame of the African slave trade more greatly upon our fellow Africans. The history of the African slave trade taught to African American students deliberately hides the brutal massacres of countless African warriors that died in battle trying to rescue their captured loved ones. They charged to those ships trying to save their loved ones. As the African warriors charged the beaches, the ship's crew shot cannons and countless bullets into their bodies, leaving thousands of blood-soaked black bodies lying on the beaches. The number of Africans that died in battle fought against the white enslavers far exceeded many times over the number of any Africans that may have assisted in the African slave trade. However, the hiding of these fierce battles and massacres is deliberately designed to perpetuate the lie that most Africans were sold away. Our core problem as Black people is that most of us can't see that our minds are being systematically manipulated to think in ways that serves the white society. As I've stated in introductions, millions of us are not functioning based upon what's actually true. We're instead functioning based upon lies fed into our minds that serve the white society. Lies that serve the system of white supremacy. The white society has exploited their monopoly over information that we receive to manipulate our minds in ways that are against our own interests and that serve their interests. It was actually them that manipulated millions of us to self-identify ourselves by the N-word. Doing so subliminally manipulates us to perceive ourselves through a false inherent subordinate identity that aids the white society in maintaining its social dominance and social capital over us. They've also manipulated us to revere them and to perceive ourselves as being our own worst enemies. It's how they demoralize us, divide us, and shifts our collective aggressions away from the white society and redirect it towards ourselves. They determined a long time ago that as long as we're kept within this collective condition, we can then be ruled over forever. Brothers and sisters, time to see our reality. One love and peace.